Hello again, everyone, and welcome to CIS Women's Hockey Weekly on SSN. I'm John Bower, along with Stuart Bowden here at the University of Ottawa Sports Complex. A big week last week in the CIS, Stuart. There were a bunch of near upsets. There was a slight upset in the top 10 involving the 4-5 teams. But let's begin with the cancellation of the Laurier-Windsor-Lancers game. What happened, and when will the game be made up, and what's the impact on the schedule?
The word I got was there was a scheduling problem at Laurier at the Sun Life Center. The game has been scheduled to be made up on Sunday, February the 15th. That gives a real advantage to Windsor in their quest to get into the playoffs, because they're going to face a Laurier team that's playing their third game in 3 days. So that's really going to be tough on Laurier. So Windsor may be able to surprise them and pick up a W.
The Manitoba Bisons continue to win, but just barely, as they eke out a 1-0 overtime win over the Calgary Dinos and then win 2-1 on Saturday night against the U of C. Is there cause for concern with the second place team in the Canada-West Conference?
Well, I think, John, when you're a top 10 team in Canada and you go in and play Calgary, a team that's won 3 games all year, and you struggle to beat them, winning in overtime in the first game and then a 1-0 victory, I think if you're Coach John Rempel, you really have to start looking at what you need to improve to get ready, because you know you're going to eventually have to face Alberta to get in to the CIS National Championship and get out of your conference.
Kayla Duna with the game-winning goal on Friday night in overtime, and 80 Miles scoring the winner in a 2-1 victory on Saturday. Two teams clinched first place in their respective conferences on the weekend. Alberta and McGill are regular season champions and will hold home ice advantage throughout the postseason. Any surprise there?
No surprise at all. McGill picks up their 5th straight QSSF title. Both teams have been dominant in their conferences, so now they'll just have to see if they can carry it on through the rest of the regular season, so they're in top shape come the playoffs and they don't have a letdown.
We talked about St. FX on last week's show. They lose to Moncton, who is ranked behind them, still in the CIS Top 10. Is Moncton now the team to beat, despite the fact that they sit 2 points behind St. FX with 2 games at hand?
I think definitely you have to look at Moncton being the hot team right now. This is the 2nd straight time they beat St. FX in overtime, and the AUS Conference Finals will be played out in Moncton, so that gives them a big advantage in trying to get the higher position of the teams that go to nationals out of the AUS.
Les Aigles Bleus have won 10 in a row coming into this week's action. Let's take a look at the top 10. There's no change in the top 10 this week. Are there any surprises that Moncton and St. FX did not change positions in the CIS Top 10?
Well, again, it was a close game, an overtime game. Both teams won their other matchup on the weekend, so the voters didn't look like there was any need to switch those teams around at all.
Now, UBC, they have to play the rest of the season on the road because of the upcoming Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver. How tough will it be for UBC to make the playoffs? Yeah,
it's going to be tough. They play their last 4 regular season games on the road, as you mentioned, and they're tied with Regina right now. Regina has 2 games in hand, so basically, if you're UBC, you have to think that you have to sweep those final 4 games, which is very difficult to do when you're on somebody else's ice.
Taking a look at the future of the Quebec Conference, that is still up for discussion, as Ottawa and Carleton are poised to make a leap into Ontario University athletics for next year. That would leave 3 teams in the Quebec Conference, Concordia, and then 2 top 10 teams in McGill and the Carabin de Montréal. What are your thoughts on the future of the QSSF?
We talk about this almost every year. It gets brought up, should Ottawa and Carleton be, a part of Ontario and part of the OUA? But travel-wise for them, it makes no sense really to travel down to Windsor, and you and I have done that drive many a time, so it's very difficult. But then if they do decide to leave, it really makes that QSSF difficult, because when you only have 3 teams and you have 2 top teams like Montreal and McGill, and then you have a team that's up and coming in Concordia, the balance would be taken out. So it would really hurt their conference there. So they're really going to have to push to keep Ottawa and Carleton in the QSSF.
I know there is some resistance on the part of the coaches and the players to leave the conference, so we'll have to keep an eye on how that plays out over the coming weeks. Stuart, the game of the week this week in the CIS.
This week it's definitely the matchup between Guelph and Laurier. Top 10, well, Guelph that could be in the top 10 if they win this game, and Laurier with that long winning streak. It's going to be a battle for both teams. Guelph's playing well, coming off a victory over Queens, and Laurier is always up there, and they're unbeaten again this year, looking to post a perfect record and get back to their 7th national championship in a row.
Who are some of the key players that fans should be looking for in that game?
Well, you definitely have to look at, for Laurier, goaltender Liz Knox. She's been the backbone of that team all year. And up front, Guelph's got a whole variety of scorers. It's really scoring by committee this year. Bell has been one of their top scorers, but they look to get it from all 3 lines.
So that will do it for this installment of CIS Women's Hockey Weekly. We will have our next installment in 7 days' time. And don't forget to tune in to the Streaming Sports Network this weekend for CIS Women's Hockey play-by-play action from across the country. On Hockey Day in Canada, we have a doubleheader of QSSF Women's Ice Hockey beginning on Saturday afternoons. The Carleton de Montréal take on the Ottawa GGs here at the University of Ottawa Sports Complex. And then it is the Carleton Ravens hosting the McGill Martlets, who will go for their 75th consecutive victory. For Stuart Bowden and our entire Streaming Sports Network crew, I'm John Bower bidding you so long for CIS Women's Hockey Weekly.